Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunamilitam yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Nindantang fulakotkarena vikasat Nipaprasuna chavin Pradvikritya bhujadvayam hari hari tyuchairvadantang muhu Nrityantam galadasru nirjarachayai sinchantamurvitalam Gayantam nijaparshadaih parivritam Tam Gorameva Stumaha Alibhih Paripalitah Pravalita Sanandamamoditah Pratyasham Sumanah Falodaya Vidho Samodamamoditah Brindaranya Bhuvi Prakasha Madhura Sarvatishayi Sriya Radha Madhavayo Pramodayatu Mam Ulala Sakalpa Drumaha Jayarupa Sanatana Bhattaraguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath E Chai Gosaira Kori Charana Vandan Jaha Hoite Vignanash Avishta Puran. So unfortunately, I made a recording yesterday, and the sound was very poor. So I'm redoing the section 5.8 and perhaps 5.9. In all likelihood, I'll go faster today than yesterday. Having covered it once, I'll probably be less enthusiastic to comment. So we'll go straight into it. This is a Purva Paksha, generally speaking, for those of you who are learning a bit of Sanskrit, that we start a question, and these are negative questions. Right? So Nanu is a negative question, which in English we would normally translate like "isn't it" or "doesn't it," like that. So, it's a more of a formulaic way of introducing a question, or what we call a Purva Paksha. So there's Purva Paksha and Uttara Paksha. And the Purva Paksha is the opponent's view, and the Uttara Paksha is the response to that. So here the Purva Paksha he's giving. So he's introducing. So this is the way often they introduce a verse. The commentator will introduce a verse by suggesting that the verse is being presented as a response to a Purva Paksha. In this case, in these verses from Jarabharat to Rahugana, we're seeing that they're all Purva Pakshas followed by Uttara Pakshas, because in each one Jarabharat is suggesting that a particular position or a particular ultimate goal, as has been suggested by other schools of thought, that these things are the ultimate goal, and then giving one simple reason, he will refute that is for some particular reason, this goal of life is not acceptable. we cannot consider it the ultimate goal of life. So in the first one, we were talking about sakama karma, the performance of sacrifices, ritual activities in order to achieve heaven or to achieve material benefit. Mostly it was, that Trividya, that's the Trividya Vishaya Veda, Trigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna. So in the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that the Vedas are primarily concerned with the three gunas, and so we should seek to go beyond those three gunas. So that's the already in the Bhagavad Gita, the Purva Paksha of the Mimamsakas, or the Purva Paksha of the ritualists, has been stated as inadequate because of its temporary nature. And here, of course, the argument was given that temporary means have temporary results. So it was a bit more of a philosophical answer, but nevertheless, the same thing. It's temporary results, heaven and so on. One will enjoy them. And then, kshine punye martyalokam vishanti. That once your punya has been exhausted, then you return, you fall down from whatever heavenly existence you were in, and you come back to the world of duality, to the world of struggle and of elevation and degradation. Right, so here we come to the third one now. So after going through what we've had so far, we've had sakama karma and then nishkam karma. And nishkama karma was rejected on the grounds that it's a means to an end. So especially in the Jnana Marg, karma, and in the Bhakti Marg also, karma is tavat karmani kurvita na nirvidyeta yavata matkatha sravanadova sradha yavat najayate. And so the Bhagavad Gita also says, tavat karmani kurvita. One should perform karmas. One should engage in the different karmic activities in the varnashram dharma in particular, until or as long as one has not, or one should not renounce those activities for as long as one does not have faith. As soon as one has faith in hearing about Harikatha, then he's no longer bound by the duties, either sakam or nishkam karmas. And there's a lot of discussion of that it was already gone through a lot of it in the Bhakti Sandarbha. So we'll not bother with it too much here, but the reason that was given was the classical reason given by the karmis, by the Gyanis, who say that karma is just a means of self-purification, and that when one gets to the position of purity, then one can access to knowledge. So karma itself is only a means, it's a sadhana, it's not the sadhya, it's not the goal. Therefore, it's stated right away that it's not the goal, it's a means, not the goal. So therefore, it's rejected as the paramartha, or the supreme purushartha. So now the next one comes up. So nanu shuddha jivatma dhyanasya paramarthatvam bhavet. Mukti dashayam api sfurtyangikarena tadrupasya tasyanashwaratvat. Tadachhadanat adhuna samsara iti tasyaiva sadhyatvat cha. So he says that let meditation on the on the individual soul, on the pure Atma, be the goal. So this is what he's suggesting here is the Patanjali Yoga system. So that's not absolutely clear from Jiva Goswami's commentary here, but it's certainly clear from the commentary of Sridhar Swami. So as I've been saying, or I might have said it in one of the lectures that was rejected because of sound problems. It's become a little bit difficult for me to remember what I said where, and so if there seems to be something that I've missed, you can probably let me know. But at any rate, I know I've been saying it, that Jiva Goswami, whenever he's always interacting with Sridhar, and this is an interesting thing to understand, because it's an interesting thing to understand from the point of view of of psychology, if you want to know. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mahaprabhu tells Ballavacharya, or Ballava Bhatta, that because Ballava Bhatta was proud that he had found some flaws or defects in Sridhar Swami's commentary. And so he had made a point of it, and he had rather proudly stated to Mahaprabhu that he had found these flaws. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to him, well, anyone who goes against the Swami is an adulterous wife, because the word Swami also means husband. So if one does, if a wife disobeys her husband, then she's she's going against her dharma as a wife. So this was a heavy put down, you could say. Chaitanya put down Ballavacharya, and it's been recorded in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. But Jiva Goswami has also disagreed with Sridhar Swami, but he does so in a more delicate way. The way that if Sridhar Swami says something, of course, now Sridhar Swami is an authority, and he's belongs to the Advaita Sampradaya. According to some, he was the Shankaracharya of the Govardhan Math in Jagannath Puri. But whether that's true or not, I have no solid, I haven't seen any solid evidence thereof. But at any rate, he did belong to the Advaita Vada sannyasis, just like many of these others, Puris and Bharatis, did. So Sridhar Swami, he, as a representative of the Advaita Sampradaya, if he says something favorable to bhakti, if he says something that confirms the eternality or the transcendent position of bhakti over and above jnana, well, then that's great, that's wonderful. But if he says something that supports the jnana position, then Jiva Goswami is, of course, not going to enthusiastically follow that. He doesn't want to accept that. But generally speaking, if that happens, he doesn't make a big story, a song and dance out of it. Rather, he simply avoids it and gives his own position. Now, in this particular section of the Vishnu Purana, this is what Jiva Goswami has said, this is the Jnana Prakarana. So now I've forgotten if I said it, where I said it, but I know that I made a mistake the other day when I said that I'm conflated Prakarana with Adhikarana, and that was actually incorrect. And Adhikarana in the Vedanta Sutra, in Adhikarana, is the usually a group of 2, 3, or 4 or 5 sutras that are discussing one particular point. So they're taken as a subsection, let's say, of the text. A prakarana is not usually quite so clearly defined, but it means a particular context. So this context that Jiva Goswami says, it's a jnana prakaranam. So for us, it's curious to know why Jiva Goswami is quoting these verses at all, if it's jnana prakaranam. Well, as far as I can make out, and we will see, because there are still a couple more Purva Pakshas to go before Jarabharat comes up with his own conclusion about what exactly there's 2 more Purva Pakshas. And then the last one is the Uttara Paksha. He's going to give his own opinion about what the ultimate goal is. But his ultimate goal is Brahman realization. But as we've seen, Babaji was saying that Jiva Goswami, for Jiva Goswami, Brahman is not the same as the Brahman of the Advaita, Kevala Advaita Vadis. And this is really what he's out to illustrate here, in my view. That's the purpose of this this particular section of the Vishnu Purana, and that is the reason why Jiva Goswami is presenting it this way. It's to show that we can have a concept of Brahman that is familiar, but at the same time indicates that there are certain things that are distinct between the individual soul and the spiritual and the supreme soul. At any rate, what we're doing here, what we have here is that, so in each one of these verses, Sridhar Swami has given a commentary, and Jiva Goswami has given a different commentary. Actually, what Jiva Goswami has done, as we have seen in the first two of these verses, or these first two of these proposals, is that Jiva Goswami says, well, basically what he's doing, he says, now if you apply this particular critique to bhakti, it doesn't fly, right? In the first one, the idea was that we are using temporary things, and so using temporary things, perishable means, will result in perishable goals, being the result will be perishable also. So Jiva Goswami says, well, if you apply that to bhakti, it doesn't work. Because in bhakti, it appears to be perishable, but actually it's not. Right? Because everything that touches bhakti becomes transcendentalized, becomes transformed by the intent of bhakti. So, atak Sri Krishna namadi nabhaved grahyam indriyai. Sevon mukhe jihvado swayameva spuratyada. That there is no possibility. If as soon as one has the desire to serve the holy name by chanting it, then the holy name, out of transcendent grace, appears from the internal potency and transforms the material body into a vehicle of the internal potency. And so that the holy name can be uttered by the so-called material body. Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Sruyate. So Parasya Shaktir, there's only one. Shakti is singular. The Supreme has one supreme energy. Para Asya Shaktihi. Vividhaiva Shruyate. But we hear of it as being multiple or multifarious. So we talk about three principal energies, internal, external. Or we talk about, in that particular verse of the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, it says Jnana Bala Kriya Cha. So Jnana, Bala, Kriya, these are all potencies of the Lord. But being potencies of the Lord, there's really only one potency of the Lord. That's his internal potency, his supreme potency. And then the external potency and the jiva potency, these are separated in some way, as we've been discussing. Bahishchara, they're external. They're like rays. The jiva potency is like a ray of the sun. That an individual jiva is like a photon, just a tiny part of that. So here, so having established at least we know, and of course, Jiva Goswami is presenting this in the second day, the Nishkama Karma. The critique was that a sadhana cannot be the sadhya, that the means cannot be the end. But that was, so Jiva said, well, does this apply to bhakti? And the answer is no, right? Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhava sadhana bidha. That sadhya bhava hridi prakasham to sadhyata. So in this verse in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami says that Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhava sa sadhana abhida. So sadhana bhakti takes that name because through the activities of the senses, or kritis, right? So activities, so kriti and karma are really cognate, the activities, so that which is to be accomplished by using, through activities, through external activities. But what is the goal? Sadhya bhava. So the bhavas, the emotions, the inner aspect of bhakti is what is the goal. So this is why it's said that you can perform bhakti for eons without actually crossing over from the external to the internal. So unless one is attempting to cultivate the transmission from external to internal, that you can go on, Koti Janma Kore Jadi Sravana Kirtan Tabu Nahi Pai Krishna Pade Prema Dhan. That sadhano ghai, anasang ghai, nalabhya suchiradapi. If you're engaged in many of the external activities without asanga, without attachment, without relating it to the Lord of your heart, then you will not attain the bhava. But he says at the same time that that the manifestation nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakasham hridi sadhyata. So what is the actual sadhya? What is the actual goal? Well, it's not something that could be attained by the external activities at all, because the bhavas are nitya siddha. They belong to the transcendental realm, and they descend. That's why at the end of the previous commentary, he said it's an avirbhava. It's not a janma. It's not something that is, it's not produced. It's the word that was in the commentary many times was nishpadyate, nishpanna, nishpatti. All these words from that root, which means that it's produced, that it comes through the combination of different things, just like we talk about rasa nishpatti. Yeah? You've heard of rasa nishpatti, that there's rasa. So how does rasa come about? Well, you have sthayi bhavas, and then you have vibhavas, and you have vyabhichari bhavas, and you have anubhavas, and all these things are different ingredients, and you mix them together and you get rasa, you get taste. So that's called rasa nishpatti. That's the sutra in Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra. It says there that that's the word that's used, nishpatti. So Krishna, so here Rupa Goswami says, Nitya Siddhasya Bhavasya Prakasha Hridi Sadhyata. That its manifestation, its appearance in the heart is the goal. So that's why the Bengali translation is actually a little bit clearer. It says that Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhya Kabunai. There's nothing you can do really to get Krishna Prem. But Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Koroye Uday, that if in the pure heart of a person who is practicing bhakti, that Krishna mercifully gives that, allows for that to appear. And that's what was stated by Jiva in the previous commentary. He said that when Krishna is satisfied or pleased, then transcendental power of bhakti, that it manifests in the heart of the devotee. Right, so here we come to now. So now this is the third Purva Paksha, and we're coming to the point he's asking now. But so now what we've got is the yoga system, Patanjali yoga system, that is being presented. So again, Sridhar and Jiva, the two of them are responding to this proposition differently. So here, let's. I think that we should go right away and look at. I'll just see how I've done this. I've done it again. Oh, here it is. Okay, so let's look at this. So here let's start with we did the Purva Paksha, right? No, here. So the Purva Paksha was this. So Jiva Goswami says, Shuddha Jivatma Dhyanasya Paramarthatvam Bhavet. So let's take meditation on the pure Jiva Atma as being the goal. So now this is what the goal is in the Patanjali Yoga system. It's called Kaivalya. So the Kaivalya is exactly this idea of separating the soul from matter, right? So the goal is to become totally absorbed in the self, right? That it says the goal is to chitta vritti nirodha, and then tata swarupe avasthanam. So then one, it becomes, the goal is to be situated in one's own swarup. So to be situated in one's own swarup, so one has to focus on the swarup, or the essential nature of the self, the shuddha jiv, the jiv that is untouched by matter. So that's the goal. So the goal is called Kaivalya in Patanjali Yoga. So we've talked about this before, Kaivalya. But here, without mentioning the word Kaivalya, this is actually what is being stated, right? So Jiva Goswami says, well, look, you had two limitations that were placed on the goal, but here, Mukti Dashayam api Spurti Angikarena Tadrupasya Tasyanashwaratvat. So we have to accept it's not perishable, anashwara. Because it is accepted that even in the liberated stage, one has the perception of this jiva. So the jiva atma is not perishable. It's not a temporary thing. The jiva is an eternal spark of spiritual energy. It cannot die. It cannot be destroyed. So meditation on it, absorption in it, to be situated in it, swarupe avasthanam, that is a nitya, it's a permanent goal. It cannot be criticized as as being perishable. And the second thing is tad achadanad aduna samsara iti tasyaiva sadhyatvatcha. And it also fits the description of a goal because it's not limited by the material nature. One is transcendent to the material nature. So therefore it's not just a means, right? It's also the goal, right? So the means and the goal, so you meditate on the self, but meditation on the self continues even in the liberated stage, just like bhakti, as was stated earlier, correct? And then here again, he's saying that the lack of this consciousness, it results in our material conditioned life, birth, death, and so on. So one is liberated. It's the state of liberation, to be situated in one's spirit swarup, to be fixed on the pure self, the Shuddha Jivatma. That is therefore a goal. So let's read the translation here. A further option is raised. Let us take meditation on the pure Jiva to be the ultimate goal. Such meditation is imperishable, since its manifestation is accepted as taking place even in the liberated stage, and it is the goal of practice, the sadhya, since one's present material bondage is a result of the jiva's real nature being covered, of this true nature being covered. So Jara Bharat responds to this in one verse. So in the verse he states both sides of the equation. He gives the Purva Paksha and the Uttara Paksha in the verse. Dhyanam chet. So chet is usually the indicator, also an indicator of a Purva Paksha. If. So if dhyana is taken to be, if dhyana atmano dhyanam, if meditation on the self, bhupa, O king, Paramartha Artha Shabditam is said to be the meaning of the word Paramartha. Vedakari Parebhyas Tat, that Tat, Parebhyaha, from other things, Vedakari makes a difference or makes a distinction. And Paramartho na Bhedavan. So the supreme ultimate goal cannot be divided. It has to account for all things, account for all possibilities. Yeah, it has to include everything. So the yoga system, in the yoga system of Patanjali, there's a nice verse which I quote here. Bojadev says in his commentary to the Yoga Sutra that Patanjali Muner Uktihi Kapya Purva Jayatyaso Pum Prakrityor Viyogopi Yoga Iti Udito Yaya. So this is right in the Mangalacharana, or right in the very beginning of this bhashya, this vritti to the Yoga Sutras by Bojadev Raja. And he says that all glories to the words of Patanjali. They're really something extraordinary, because he has taken, by his words, he has made the word, he has taken yoga to mean viyoga. So viyoga means separation or difference, right? Separate actually means separation. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it's used for separation in the other rasas, right? There are 5 rasas. So in the first 4 rasas, when it talks about separation, he talks about yoga and viyoga. Those are the 2 terms he uses. So when he's talking about viyoga, for instance, the the parents in Vatsalya rasa, they can be separated from Krishna, and so then they experience viyoga. So the word vipralamba is only used in Mathura rasa. We have the vipralamba rasa, but it's not used for separation in the other rasas. There we use the word viyoga. So viyoga means separation. So that's the fact. So pum prakrityor viyoga. So pum prakrityor, so purusha, means purusha, and prakriti means prakriti. So the separation of purusha and prakriti, that is yoga. So yoga, generally speaking, and we'll see in the next verse that follows, so in the 4th Purva Paksha of Jora Bharat's suggestions, he'll use the word yoga again in a more classical sense, the yoga of the individual soul with the Supreme Soul, right? But here, he's not taking it that way at all. He's saying that it's Bheda Kari, that if we take the pure soul by itself, then it will be, it separates. And that's what Sridhar Swami also does, because he says here, Parebhyo dehadibhyo vivichya. So the word vivichya is the same as viveka. Yeah? So viveka means to discriminate. So discriminating the self from the other things. So this is both in the Sankhya and the Yoga philosophies, right? So Sankhya and Yoga Sankhya is basically a philosophical system where one intellectually separates through discrimination, by the process of discrimination. And when we see in the Bhagavad Gita, for instance, the use of the word Sankhya is generally used to mean something according to the idea of jnana, that it's the Sankhya philosophy. When we talk about in the Bhagavad Gita, the Sankhya, when it uses Sankhya in the first couple of chapters, there, the 2nd chapter is called, in some versions is called Sankhya Yoga. Because why? Because it discriminates. He tells that this is, he says, Dehinosmin yatha dehe komara yovanang jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuhyati. And that's where he starts. It starts to saying, discriminating between the soul and matter, saying that you're not this body. Right? So that's the Sankhya portion of Sankhya philosophy. And so in the 3rd chapter, when Krishna says that Sankhya Yogena, Karma Yogena Yoginam, Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam, Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam, Karma Yogena Yoginam. So the 2 paths, that there are 2 nishtas, Krishna says in the 3rd chapter. One is Sankhya and one is karma. And one is yoga. So he has Sankhya and yoga. So Jnana Yoga, the path of Jnana is for the Sankhya people, and the path of karma is for the yoga people. So this is a very important parallel in the two terminologies that should be recognized. So in the same way, Sankhya and yoga philosophy, the Sankhya philosophy that is presented by, Ishvara Krishna and so on, that this is a philosophy of discrimination. It's a philosophy of it's a jnana path, whereas in the karma yoga, it's more through the process of external activities. So yoga includes karma yoga. It includes all the kinds of external activities, even up to the 6th chapter, there where we get more classical, meditation being talked about. There, it's where the quietism, shamak karanamuchyate, yoga rurhasya, yoga ruruksha, and yoga rurha, that when one has advanced on the path of yoga, then one has the process of letting go becomes predominant. In the other ones, the activities are more important. Karma, karanam uchyate. Activities, works are the things. You start in the Ashtanga yoga, you start with physical exercises and with breathing exercises and with more or with yamas and niyamas. So these are all external preparations. But when one actually gets deeply into the path of yoga, then one is engaged in a process of cutting off one's connection to matter and becoming fixed in the self. So this is what he says, is parebhyo dehadibhyo vivichya atmanas chittalambani bhutasya. So again, clearly this is the Patanjali system by using the word alambana. So the alambanams, these are the things that when one is meditating, one is engaged in meditation. So this starts with meditation. First of all, you withdraw the mind by pratyahara from the external objects, and you fix them on dharanas, are more general. And so dharanas are numerous, and one can have, because the mind requires many. The mind requires variety, and variety is against the principle of yoga, because one has to become fixated. It has to be that one has to have the ekanta, the single-minded goal, right? Of the eke hakuru nandana. The mind has to be fixed on one thing. So the process of dharana is to fix, usually in most of the classical yoga systems, hatha yoga systems, they have dharanas that are based on different points in the body and different chakras and so on, things like this. And then you have dhyanas, and gradually the dhyanas are based on alambanas. So these are alambanas start to come into play with the dharana, that you start to fix on a particular point, and the particular point that you fix on, that's called an alambana. It means a hanging place. Alambana, means to hang. So you're hanging your mind on a hook. This is basically, even in the Bhagavatam, we have that verse that was discussed a little bit earlier about Bhagavan being a hook on which the jnana yogi, the yogi, hangs his chitta, his mind, on Bhagavan, like a fisherman catches the fish on a hook. So the point is that you catch the alambana, is the hook which you catch the mind with. And then once you've caught the mind, then you can discard the hook. This is the one example that's given. So he said, but here in this particular case, that he's saying that the Atma is the alambana. So it's the ultimate alambana. But even in the Patanjali yoga system, you have to, even the meditation on the self is up when one becomes situated in the self, then very similar to the condition of Brahma Gyan, there's no more awareness of perceiver and perceived or active perception. One becomes absorbed in the self, and since there is no prakriti, there's nothing to be observed. since there's no Prakriti, since there's no contact with Prakriti, one has no senses or mind with which to observe, and one is situated in pure consciousness of the self. So ultimately, there's little difference between Kaivalya and Brahma Gyan, but here in this particular case, a distinction is being made, so that Sridhar says this dhyanam is bhedakari because you're deliberately separating the self from Prakriti. And paramarthas cha na bhedavan. There should be no divisions in the paramartha. So ekam evadvityam brahma. This is what Sridhar himself quotes here. So so meditation that uses the Atma as its alambana separates it from other things, namely the body, etc., namely Prakriti. But the ultimate goal cannot admit such differences, since according to the Shruti, Brahma is one without a second. So that's Sridhar. So Sridhar is arguing Ekameva Dvityam. So he's arguing from the position of Kevaladvaita, from the Shankarite point of view, or from the non-dualistic perspective. So Jiva Goswami is taking a position that will satisfy which will take Jora Bharat's argument and make it cooperate, or make it bring it in line with the position of bhakti. So yad vigyane sarva vigyanam bhavati tadeva brahma shruto paramarthatvena parigyatam. So this is a pratigyatam. So a pratigya, so this is also from the language of Nyaya, from the language of the logical scriptures, from the Tarka Shastra, the language of logic. So it means a proposition, or that you have before you start an argument, you have to state what it is that you're going to prove. So in the Shruti, the idea, one of the definitions given of Brahma is that, and so as Brahma as the Paramartha. So how to recognize that Brahman is the Paramartha? This is the question, right? So it says that Yasmin Vigyate Sarvam Vigyatam Bhavati. So this is coming from one of the Jnana Upanishads. The Upanishads, there are hundreds of Upanishads. There's I think that the one collection there has, or at least a compendium, has found 220 or more Upanishads. And then in the Muktika Upanishad, there are 108 Upanishads. And Shankara has only commented on, I think, 11 Upanishads. So generally speaking, there are considered to be 11 primary Upanishads. And the Vedanta, for instance, only is based on those 11 Upanishads. It only takes Purva Pakshas from these Upanishads. It only asks questions or inquires to or investigates these 11 Upanishads. So other Upanishads like the Paingala Upanishad and so on, these are considered to be later, but some of them are much later. So one could say that the Muktika Upanishad is generally dated to the 13th century. And so by the 13th century, there were 108 Upanishads, including Vaishnava Upanishads, including the Gopal Tapani, which is there. And in the post-dating that, you have many others coming, Radha Upanishad, for instance. These are all much later. And or Chaitanya Upanishad, even up to the modern era, new Upanishads are being discovered, which are dubious, let's say, in their ancientity, in their antiquity. Right. So anyhow, the pratigya is that tadeva Brahma, that is Brahma, by knowing which everything else will be known. So I mean, I don't think that there's some people that Okay, let's just go on with that, and we'll maybe discuss that if we have time later on. So sarva vijnanamayatvam cha tasya sarvatmatvat. So Brahma is the sarvatma, is the self of all selves. It's the Paramatma. So we have Brahma, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So for Jiva Goswami here, like uh, Satyanarayan Das Ji has pointed out, and that his vision of Brahma, his understanding of Brahma is different. So he's saying that Brahma, the Bhagavata says Brahma, Bhagavan, and Paramatma, these are all the same thing. So because they're all the same thing, but simply that some properties are more present in some things than in others. But they cannot be radically different from one another. Right? That's the point. So if some characteristics is there of Brahma, so the Advaya Tattva, it was in the Bhagavatam verse, it said, Vadanti Tattva Vidas Tattvam Yajnanam Advayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Shabdyate. So he accepts the starting point is Advaya Jnanam. So Advaya Jnanam, that is the goal. So the Advaya Jnanam, that's the goal of the Jnanis, it's the goal of the Yogis, and it's the goal of the Vaishnavas. In all three cases. So Brahman is Advaya Jnana, but Bhagavan is also Advaya Jnana. So properties that are in Bhagavan, some of them at least, you can't have radically different properties in Brahman from Bhagavan. So the Brahman of the Advaita Vadis and the Brahman of the Vaishnavas, or the Brahman of the Bhagavatas, it sometimes looks the same because it's Advaya Jnana, but that doesn't make it the same. There are other, and that's what we're getting at here in this whole section. That's the point. That's the ultimate point of this entire section. That's why Jiva Goswami is going about it in this way, showing how, from the Vaishnava point of view, these critiques do not apply to the Paramartha as envisioned by the Bhagavatas. Right. So the point was that because Brahman is the Sarvatma, is the soul of all things, and we saw that in relation to Krishna, right? Krishna me nam avehi tvam atmanam akhilatmanam. That he is the self of all creatures, of all existence. So that's why knowing him, one knows all things. If one knows him, if one has, just like the giving water to the root of a tree results in water going to all the leaves and branches. Similarly, if one has knowledge of the root of all creation, then one, if not having detailed scientific knowledge of all aspects of creation, at least has, let's say, access to intuitive knowledge of all things. He sees things in relationship to Krishna. He sees things in relationship to Bhagavan or Brahman, and therefore there he sees the oneness, the innate oneness of all things, and he understands, and that's how he understands all things. So Agni Vijnanam hi Jwala Vispulingaderapi Vigyapakam Bhavati. So the knowledge of the fire also reveals the knowledge of the flame and the sparks and so on. So ekasya jivasya tu, so now this is Jiva Goswami bringing our Vaishnava philosophy clearly into position. He says, ekasya jivasya tu, but a single jiva, an individual soul, tadiya jiva shakti lakshanangsha paramanutvam iti atas tasya tat sfuranasya cha bhedavato na paramarthatvam iti artha. So a single jiva is a spark of the energy, the jiva shakti of the Supreme Brahman, and therefore by knowing it, one doesn't have access to the soul of all things. It's separated from the soul. The jiva is a bahischara portion. We've had this he's re-emphasizing that here. The jiva is wandering externally to Krishna. He's been deliberately separated from Krishna in order to be able to enter into a relationship with him, right? In order to experience relationship with him. So on his own, that jiva is not is not the whole, is only a part. So therefore, knowing the jiva cannot be the part, it cannot be the paramartha. So it has been asserted that in the Shruti that Brahman, by knowledge of which everything becomes fully known, is the supreme goal. Because Brahman is the self or essence of everything, knowledge of it is all-encompassing. Knowledge of fire includes knowledge of the flames, sparks, and so on. I think that knowledge of the fire reveals is probably better closer to the Sanskrit here. That knowledge of the fire reveals the flame. So knowledge of fire reveals the flame, sparks, and so on. The individual living entity is an atomic being, a fraction of Brahman's jiva potency. Therefore, since the manifestation of the jiva is distinct from Brahman, it cannot be the supreme goal. That last sentence is still a little, because it has tasya and tatsfuranasya cha. So there's two things, tasya tatsfuranasya cha. So it's the jiva itself. It's not, he says tasya tatsfuranasya cha bhedavan. So there's a separation of the two. So what are these two things? So that first tasya is a little obscure. So I believe, so most of the people are taking tasya to mean Brahman. So probably I'll end up following suit, even though I'm still a little puzzled by it. So let's read the commentary here as it stands presently. So after eliminating the possibility that things that are perishable and those that are a means only could be the ultimate goal, Jarabharat presents another alternative. The first two propositions were sakama karma and nishkama karma. Now he raises the possibility that the goals of Patanjali's yoga system are also inadequate. He suggests, let meditation on the pure jiva be the purushartha. The jiva is eternal and meditation on it can continue even in the liberated stage. It does not have any other motive. It can be done for its own sake, and it is also blissful. I think I did this a little differently. We go through these I'm constantly changing them. That's why it's going on. So after eliminating the possibility that things that are perishable and those that are a means only could be the ultimate goal. Yes, even here's a mistake. Okay. After eliminating the possible that the perishable and things that are a means only could be the ultimate goal, Jarabharat presents another alternative. The first two propositions were sakama karma and nishkama karma. Now he raises the possibility that the goals of Patanjali's yoga system are also inadequate, are also flawed, are also do not meet, are also fall short, let's say. He suggests, first of all, let meditation on the pure jiva be the purushartha. The jiva is eternal and meditation on it can continue even in the liberated stage. It does not have any motive, other motive. It can be done for its own sake, and it is also blissful. To this proposal, Jora Bharat replies that such a meditation goes against the principal unity of reality. Then there would be two different realities, which in the Sankhya Yoga terminology are Purusha and Prakriti. Thus, Sridhar Swami comments that the different from others refers to the difference of the conscious being from the products of matter like the body. As Bojadev says in his Raja Martanda Vritti to the Yoga Sutra, all glories to the teachings of Patanjali Muni, by which yoga is defined as the separation or viyoga of the spirit, Purusha, from matter. But, says Sridhar Swami, this goes against the principles of reality is one without a second. The principle of non-duality has to accommodate material nature and not exclude it. Well, the Mayavadis or the Advaita bodies, they do exclude it by calling it illusory, right? But at least they have some, they don't just simply say, they don't just say that, because according to Sankhya Yoga, Prakriti is eternal and the Purusha is eternal. So they don't say that it's illusory. They say that Prakriti has two functions. One function is to give a bhoga to the jiva, and the other one is to give apavarga. So it's not, they're considered to be realists. Sri Jiva Prabhu, without rejecting his position, argues that it is inadequate from the devotional point of view because it goes against the Shruti that says, by knowing which everything becomes known. Only such a reality is advocated in the scriptures as the object of achievement. In the 6th chapter of Chandogya Upanishad, one finds the story of Shvetaketu, the son of Aruni. His father ordered him to go and study under a teacher. On his order, the boy went and studied the Vedas for 12 years and returned home as a young man of 24, very proud of his learning. His father noticed it and was not happy. He said to him, O Shvetaketu, O beautiful one, Somya, now that you are proud of being a scholar, did you ask about that wisdom through which the unheard becomes heard, unthought becomes thought, and the unknown becomes known? So meditation on the self would not fit such a description of the Purushartha. The knowledge of the jiva would not lead to the knowledge of the absolute. The bliss of knowing one's self will not give complete satisfaction because it is very limited. Chandogya Upanishad says that happiness is in that which is great. Happiness is not in that which is limited. Bhumaiva sukham. Naswalpe sukhamasti. So the jiva remains, even though it's greater than matter. It is not the bhuma. The jiva is a part of Bhagavan's marginal potency, so it is one with him. But as Sri Jiva Prabhu has been saying, it is bahishchara, moving outside of Bhagavan. So therefore, to know oneself without reference to Bhagavan can never be the complete Purushartha. So I guess that's where we'll stop today. And tomorrow we'll go on with 5.9 and see the fourth of the proposals that Jora Bharat himself raises and then rejects, and the reasons that he does so. Jai Jai Sri Radhe, Jai Jai Sri Radhe, Jai Jai Sri Radhe Shyam.